Hey guys, it is Citri here again. As you can see, my fortress teleported to the end more or less successfully. We made it to back into the overworld, to this desert owned by my friend, and she has gladly said that I can rest here and do some repairs. I plan to go through each of the spheres and repurpose them, and for that I have managed to get this mold structure that I built on Weaver for easily building Faith Island and get it moved through to this. It's a sphere, one with a radius that is like 1 or maybe 2, I can't remember, but exactly enough so that a Faith Island of tier 4 will fit snugly inside, and you can rebuild the hull perfectly against it. And so I'm going to use that. I'm going to get I think I'll start with the stores today. Today is going to be about the stores. Position that in there and rebuild the hull. Get it a perfect sphere of endstone lined with obsidian underneath. Put in some chests and get a nice couple of security measures in there as well, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen, and better prepared for what might happen than for what you know will happen, something like that. So yeah. You'll note the Topsy Turvey runes that are on the edge of the sphere. I kind of put those in with the idea that if I ever needed to replace a hull quickly, then it wouldn't be that bad to just flip one in after TPing in, but probably won't. I'll just build it from scratch here. I think that's probably going to be the quickest way, especially with all the chests that will interfere with TT runes. So a power pick will help me dig through the large amount of obsidian I've already placed down. I don't think I'd even bother. I'd just build from scratch if I didn't have the power pick. It's so useful, especially when dealing with obsidian. So I'm going to get to that. I'm going to skip through it because it took several hours, and nobody wants to watch several hours of me mining obsidian and endstone. The mold made this whole process considerably easier, more streamlined than it would otherwise be, particularly placing the new hull and not falling out of the bottom of the island, which is always a risk when dealing with Faith Islands and digging down. That wasn't really a problem, so I just went through and sort of just destroyed everything without having to worry about it, and that was some of the reasons behind building that mold in the first place. This teleport rune made out of furnaces, I never actually did anything with it. It was going to be a sort of emergency exit or something like that, and these random pieces of bedrock were stolen by the FTP rune from the old altar of judgment that sat above the storeroom. It looks like it just grabbed some of that, so I do plan to have an altar and an admin pick built into either the storerooms or somewhere else. I haven't quite decided on that yet, but straightforward enough just to gather the bedrock from that for now and just build on. So now, as you can see, the actual hull itself is complete, or at least the endstone is. So, and next I started off placing down an obsidian layer on top of that. Again, stores being important, you want to make it as hard as possible for someone to get in, and that's more or less what I did. And at this point I also thought there wasn't much point in maintaining a position in the mold, so I brought us back to dock with Faith Fortress, mostly because at this stage there's kind of like, for the obsidian layer, the endstone is a mold, so yeah, I don't need to be in the wooden mold anymore because it's of no practical purpose. So let's see. It fits just as nicely as it did before, the added advantage of there being considerably more floor space, or at least sphere space. So we get to work on this. I'm going to go, and yes, for here I wanted to do something a bit different in terms of getting between the floors. I thought maybe a topsy-turvy elevator would probably be the best way to go about it, and so extracting materials from these charts and chests, not charts, what am I saying? I figured that tier 1 might be enough to flip me and allow me to go between the floors, but experimentation did eventually reveal that tier 1 was too short. So I did have to skip over to tier 2, but the idea would be that there is a topsy-turvy rune on each layer, and that would allow for, what's the word, anyone to hop between them. But obviously, because it's a topsy-turvy elevator, there's going to need to be another topsy-turvy rune on the other side because they're going to overlap like an existing Topsy Turvey elevator, but I want to, instead of it to go up or down, I want it just to be like a floor panel. It also took a big chunk out of the switcher down here and the FTP room. So the solution was, I initially started with double half steps, which are tier 2, and that is enough to flip a Topsy Turvey rune over. Then I discovered that crafting tables were tier 2, which was exactly what I would want for this purpose, because it would mean that there would always be crafting tables in the floor right near the center. I wanted these to act not so much like an individual elevator, the cart that went up and down, but more as floor panels that you could use to do a short range teleport. And so the Topsy Turvey runes will always flip another Topsy Turvey rune into position, so that there will be one in the floor at all times, no matter which one you use. Now this is something I didn't quite anticipate. There's zombies here. I think this probably occurred at some point when I FTP'd. I can't quite rightly remember. But it's bearing in mind to myself that I should probably not just depend on torches for lighting, because they always get teleported away. Where possible, jack-o'-lanterns, glowstone or redstone lamps, well, not redstone lamps because they won't necessarily stay active, probably be employed. Zombies contained and dispatched. The next step was to begin work on the top floor, which I plan on using for storing things like tools, potions, enchants, that sort of thing. I have the materials to build a fully functioning enchanting and potions area, so I started building a Topsy Turvey rune to sort of mark the boundary for that. The very top one, which is above the one I was just building there, has to be deadbolted and locked in that way. Likewise the very bottom one, so that it's possible to use these to flip between floors without getting catapulted outside of the sphere. So the next step is the security, and lacking some space for a normal switcher, I've gone with this sticky piston switcher, which uses a single pulse to push the gold blocks up or retract them. I didn't want to use a lever because extended pistons are a bit dodgy when it comes to the FTP rune. They're not really meant to move, so sometimes there are issues moving them with disappearing blocks, and I didn't want to lose or risk losing 5 gold blocks, so this works as a amicable solution, because you can see I hit the button and the blocks get extended but the pistons stay retract. And I should have seen that coming actually on reflection, but the result is that. So the objective being to have the FTP rune and a personal teleporter rune activate at the same time, so that the stores will teleport away and will also teleport the user to either out of the stores or to some sort of trap where I can harvest their items. That is not decided on which yet. What I decided to use to activate the teleport runes was a persisted pressure sensor. Someone pointed out to me on the forums that you could do this with pressure sensors, and you make your pressure sensor on a bed of pistons, and then you activate the pistons once the pressure sensor is activated, and then you can safely remove the blocks without destroying the pressure sensor. And so once that's done, I went downstairs, made the teleporter rune and the FTP rune both out of phase blocks partially, so they would only ever be complete when the door was closed. See, the door's opened, then the pressure sensor won't trigger the rune because the rune doesn't exist. But if I enter the pressure sensor field once the door is closed, then teleporter used, you have not specified the destination. So I need to do the same thing to the FTP rune, and then I had the problem with that because the FTP rune is directly under the Topsy Turvey rune at the floor here. How do I get to it? So I made the center gold block out of phase blocks, and made the 4 solid stone out of lock blocks. And so the result is, whenever any fiendish thief attempts to break in, they have to break down the door first, so it can't just happen to a random pedestrian, and then they get teleported out, and the whole thing just fades away. So long as you ensure that where it teleports to is a secure location, then your stores are somewhat foolproof. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you found that interesting. If you have any questions or suggestions for Faith Fortress, by all means leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you. If you like this video, then drop it a like or subscribe, and I will see you next time. Cheers.